The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the crystal spires of Zentara Prime, where representatives from 47 species gathered in the great circular chamber. The air hummed with tension as translators worked overtime, converting the various clicks, whistles, and harmonics into the universal trade language. Counselor Vexstar of the Hegemony raised his serpentine head, his cold reptilian eyes scanning the assembly. "The human problem has escalated beyond our initial projections," he announced, his forked tongue flicking out to taste the fear in the air. "Their expansion rate exceeds all models. Their military capabilities grow daily. They must be contained." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The humans had only discovered faster-than-light travel 15 years ago, yet they had already established colonies on 12 worlds and created trade agreements with 6 minor species. Most concerning was their military doctrine, which seemed to embrace chaos and unpredictability in ways that made traditional strategic planning nearly impossible. Ambassador Quillith, a graceful being with translucent skin and 4 arms, stood from her hovering platform. "The Terran Federation has shown no hostile intent toward Council members. Their expansion follows established colonization protocols. Perhaps we are being hasty." Vexstar's tail lashed against the floor. "Hasty? They defeated the Korthic raiders in under 6 hours. Raiders that had plagued the Outer Rim for decades. Their warriors fight with a ferocity that defies logic, throwing themselves into battles they cannot win and somehow emerging victorious." The recording crystal in the center of the chamber activated, showing grainy footage from the Korthic conflict. Human soldiers in basic armor moved through a space station with coordinated precision, their weapons crackling with energy. But it was their behavior that disturbed the Council most. When cornered, instead of surrendering as any rational species would, the humans fought harder. When outnumbered, they smiled. "Observe their faces," Vexstar continued. "See how they display their teeth when threatened. This is a predator species, evolved from pack hunters. They will not stop expanding. They will not accept subordinate status. And they breed like vermin." High Counselor Morden, an ancient being whose crystalline body reflected rainbows in the chamber's light, raised a manipulator appendage. "What do you propose, Vexstar? Direct confrontation? The galactic peace has lasted for 3,000 years. Not direct confrontation. Surgical removal. The Hegemony has developed specialists for such operations. Cold-blooded professionals who can eliminate key human leaders without leaving evidence of Council involvement. We make it appear as internal strife, perhaps a coup or assassination by rival human factions." The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of life support systems. Several species had similar thoughts, but none had voiced them so directly. Counselor Zephahai of the Maritime Collective spoke up, his gills fluttering nervously. "The humans have proven resourceful. Their intelligence networks are more sophisticated than we initially believed. The risk of discovery is substantial. The risk of inaction is greater," Vexstar replied. "My agents have studied human psychology extensively. They are emotional creatures, prone to panic and infighting when their leadership is removed. Without their key figures, their expansion will collapse into civil war." The vote was called. 31 species voted in favor of the operation. 16 abstained. None voted against, though several members quietly excused themselves from the chamber rather than be recorded as supporting the action. 3 days later, in the shadows of the Hegemony homeworld, 5 figures gathered in the facility that officially did not exist. They were Vexstar's finest operatives, each one a master of death from a different species known for their lethality. Sesek was a venom spider from the Arachna systems, her 8 legs capable of moving in complete silence across any surface. Her bite delivered neurotoxins that could kill a dozen humans in seconds. Krith belonged to the Ice Stalker race, bipedal predators whose homeworld orbited a dying star. His skin could shift temperature to match any environment, making him nearly invisible to thermal sensors. His claws could slice through titanium. Morgesh was something else entirely, a shadow wraith whose species existed partially in subspace. He could phase through solid matter and strike from angles that defied Three-dimensional thinking, Thekra was a bone-breaker. A massive humanoid whose exoskeleton could withstand direct hits from plasma cannons. Her strength could crush vehicle armor with her bare hands. Finally, there was Zix, a mind flayer, whose telepathic abilities could drive lesser species to madness or force them to commit suicide. Vexstar addressed them personally, a sign of how critical this mission was considered. Your targets are the Human Leadership Council. President Maria Santos, General Alexander Chun, Admiral Sarah Torres, and Director James Morrison of their intelligence services. Eliminate them simultaneously. Make it appear to be human-on-human violence. The assassins studied their target files. The humans looked so fragile, so soft. No natural armor, no claws, no venom. How had such weak creatures become a threat to the galactic order? Their homeworld? Sesek asked, her mandibles clicking. Earth, 1 gravity point 2. Oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. Extensive urban centers. Their security will be formidable but predictable. They think in straight lines, unlike true predators. The insertion went flawlessly. The assassins used a stolen merchant vessel to reach Earth's outer system, then separated to individual stealth pods. Earth's defenses detected nothing as the 5 killers made planetfall in different locations. Sesek made her way to Washington, D.C., where President Santos was scheduled to address the Colonial Senate. The human leader had no idea that death was already crawling through the ventilation systems above her head. Meanwhile, on Luna Base, Admiral Torres reviewed fleet deployment reports in her private office. She never noticed the temperature fluctuation that indicated Krith had materialized behind her chair. General Chun inspected new recruits at Fort Bragg, unaware that Morgish was phasing through the walls around him. Studying his movement patterns, Director Morrison worked late in his secured facility outside London, his telepathic shielding equipment functioning normally. None of his sensors detected Zix's mental probe. Thekra positioned herself near the United Nations building in New York, where all 4 targets would meet the following day for a crucial defense. Planning session, the assassins were professionals. They had eliminated leaders of dozens of species across the galaxy. Humans would be no different than any other prey, but on Earth, in facilities buried deep beneath mountains and ocean floors, other professionals were going about their duties. Men and women whose existence was classified beyond the highest levels of human government. Projects that had been theoretical just 5 years ago but had become deadly, serious after humanity's first contact with the larger galactic community. Dr. Elizabeth Warren stood in the medical bay of Site 7, reviewing the latest batch of test results. Cognitive enhancement is holding steady at 400% baseline, she reported to the figure lying on the examination table. Physical capabilities are exceeding all projections. The subject opened his eyes. They had been brown once, but now they held flecks of silver that seemed to catch light from impossible angles. How long until deployment clearance? Director Morrison wants final evaluations completed by tomorrow. The Council's activity has our intelligence assets concerned. Sergeant Major David Park sat up on the table, his movements fluid despite his enhanced muscle density. The others? Reynolds is completing underwater operations trials in the Pacific facility. Martinez finished her orbital combat certification yesterday. Williams. Dr. Warren paused. Williams asked me to tell you he successfully bench-pressed a shuttle. Park smiled, and there was something in that expression that would have disturbed Counselor Vexstar greatly. Then we're ready. The enhancement process is still dangerous. We've lost 14 candidates in the past month. Neural rejection, organ failure, psychological breakdown. You 5 are the only successful subjects out of nearly 1,000 volunteers. Doctor, Park said quietly, do you know why humans were so successful against the Korthic raiders? Superior tactics? We weren't superior. We were desperate. And desperate humans don't fight by anyone else's rules. He stood, his enhanced frame moving with predatory grace. Those alien assassins that Morrison detected entering our system? They're about to learn what happens when you threaten humanity's leaders. In the depths of Site 7, alarms began to sound. Not warning alarms, but activation alarms. Across the globe, similar facilities received the same signal, the Super Soldier. Program was now operational. High above Earth's atmosphere. In a cloaked observation vessel, Vexstar monitored his assassin's progress through quantum communicators. Everything was proceeding according to plan. By dawn, human leadership would be eliminated, and their species would tear itself apart in the chaos. He had no way of knowing that every movement his operatives made was being tracked by sensors, beyond anything in the Galactic Council's experience. He could not have imagined that humanity's response to the discovery of hostile alien life had been to create something that had never existed before in galactic history, soldiers who were no longer entirely human, but who retained everything that made. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened exactly 72 hours after Vexstar's humiliating retreat from Earth's solar system. This time, the great crystal chamber buzzed with an entirely different kind of tension. Fear had replaced arrogance, and uncertainty clouded every species' understanding of their place in the galactic hierarchy. Vexstar himself stood in the center of the chamber, no longer the confident predator who had proposed the assassination mission. His reptilian features showed signs of stress that his species rarely displayed, and his tail remained motionless against the polished floor. "Report," commanded High Counselor Morden, his crystalline voice carrying harmonics of barely controlled anger. "All 5 operatives were captured," Vexstar said, his words carrying the weight of complete failure. "The humans were expecting us. They had prepared countermeasures for every species-specific ability our agents possessed." Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the assembly. Ambassador Quillith leaned forward on her platform, her forearms gesturing in agitation. "You said the humans were primitive, that their technology was decades behind Council standards." "Their baseline technology remains inferior to ours," Vexstar admitted. "But they have developed something else. Enhanced soldiers. Beings that appear human but possess capabilities that exceed our projections by several orders of magnitude." The recording crystal activated, showing grainy footage that Vexstar's ship had captured during the brief engagements. Council members watched in stunned silence as human figures moved with impossible speed and strength, demonstrating abilities that shouldn't exist in a species that had only achieved spaceflight 15 years ago. "Observe," Vexstar continued, his voice hollow. The human designated Reynolds withstood direct contact from Krith's talons. Krith could cut through diamondoid armor with those claws. They left scratches on human skin. The footage showed Reynolds crushing the Ice Stalker's exoskeleton with her bare hands, her enhanced frame moving with mechanical precision. The one called Martinez demonstrated dimensional phasing capabilities. Our intelligence suggested humans lacked any understanding of subspace manipulation. More footage played, showing Martinez materializing from nowhere to capture Morgesh mid-phase. The human Williams resisted Zix's full telepathic assault and showed no signs of mental distress. Zix has broken the minds of entire planetary populations. Counselor Zephyr's gills fluttered rapidly, a sign of extreme distress in his species. "How is this possible?" "Our genetic analysis showed humans to be a standard carbon-based species with no exceptional traits." "They have altered themselves," Vexstar replied. "Enhanced their bodies beyond natural limits. Created soldiers specifically designed to counter known galactic threats. They studied our species' abilities and developed countermeasures for each one." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Every species represented here had particular advantages that had secured their place in the galactic order. The hegemony's assassins were considered unstoppable. The maritime collective's deep ocean adaptations made them unique. The Crystal Choir's harmonic abilities were unmatched. If humans could adapt to counter any biological advantage, what did that mean for the established hierarchy? High Counselor Morden's crystalline form reflected the chamber's lights as he processed the information. "What are their demands?" "They have made no demands," Vexstar said, and something in his tone suggested this was almost worse than if the humans had asked for territory or resources. They simply returned our operatives with a message. Show it. The recording crystal shifted to display a sterile medical facility. The 5 alien assassins lay in containment units, alive but clearly defeated. A human figure approached the camera, her form bearing the same enhanced characteristics as the soldiers who had captured them. Dr. Elizabeth Warren looked directly into the recording device, her silver-flecked eyes holding intelligence that seemed to calculate possibilities far beyond human norm. "Greetings, Galactic Council," she said, her voice calm and professional. "We are returning your operatives as a gesture of diplomatic courtesy. They have been treated according to established galactic conventions for prisoners of war, though we note that no such conventions existed for this situation." She paused, and her next words sent chills through every council member present. "We want to be very clear about something. This assassination attempt has taught us valuable lessons about galactic politics. We understand now that humanity's rapid expansion has created concerns among established powers. We also understand that some species view violence as an acceptable solution to those concerns." Warren stepped closer to the camera, and her enhanced features became more apparent. Subdermal armor caught the light beneath her skin. Muscle definition spoke of strength that exceeded any baseline human capability. "We have prepared accordingly. The Super Soldier program represents humanity's response to the discovery that the galaxy contains species willing to murder political leaders to maintain the status quo. These 5 individuals are the first generation. They are not the last." The recording showed glimpses of vast facilities, enhanced humans training in environments that would kill normal beings, technology that seemed to blend human engineering with principles stolen from across the galaxy. Humanity extends an offer of peaceful coexistence to all council species. We are willing to work within established frameworks for galactic governance, to respect territorial boundaries, and to engage in fair trade relationships. Warren's expression hardened almost imperceptibly. However, any future attempts to solve the human problem through violence will be met with responses that escalate proportionally. We are a species that learns quickly from our mistakes. We are also a species that ensures we never make the same mistake twice. The recording ended with footage of human ships departing Earth, their hulls bearing designs that incorporated technologies no council species recognized. "How many ships?" Morden asked quietly. 47 vessels detected," Vextar replied, "all equipped with weapon systems of unknown configuration. They are currently establishing defensive positions throughout human space." Ambassador Quillace's translucent skin had taken on a pale hue. "Defensive positions? Our intelligence suggests otherwise," Vextar said grimly. "The positioning is aggressive. They are creating a perimeter that extends far beyond their current territorial claims. They are preparing for expansion, not defense." The truth was worse than any council member wanted to acknowledge. In trying to eliminate humanity as a threat, they had forced the species to reveal capabilities that no one had suspected. The humans had been expanding cautiously, following galactic norms and respecting established boundaries. Now they were demonstrating that such caution had been a choice, not a limitation. Counselor Nexus of the Hive Mind Collective spoke for the first time, his voice carrying the resonance of a billion connected consciousness. "Analysis suggests human enhancement technology could be adapted to counter any known biological advantage. Their rapid development indicates accelerated research protocols that exceed all established scientific paradigms." "Meaning?" Morden prompted. "Meaning they will not stop with these 5 soldiers. Human reproductive rates and industrial capacity suggests they could produce enhanced warriors in numbers that would dwarf any standing military force in the galaxy." The chamber erupted in panicked discussions as species representatives calculated what it would mean to face an enemy that could adapt to counter any advantage they possessed. "Order!" Morden commanded, his crystalline voice resonating through the chamber. "The situation requires careful consideration." But before any further discussion could occur, the chamber's communication array activated. An incoming transmission. Broadcasting on all council frequencies simultaneously, Director Morrison's face appeared on the main display, his expression professional but carrying undertones that suggested this was not a social call. Greetings, Galactic Council. I am Director Morrison of Terran Intelligence. We understand that you are currently discussing recent events involving our species. Morden activated the response array. Director Morrison, we acknowledge that recent actions by certain council members may have been hasty. Hasty, Morrison repeated, and something in his tone suggested he found the word inadequate. 47 species voted to authorize the assassination of humanity's elected leadership. That moves beyond hasty into what we would classify as an act of war. The chamber fell silent. War had not been formally declared between galactic powers in over 3 millennia. However, Morrison continued, humanity is not interested in war. We are interested in ensuring that such hasty decisions are never made again. What do you propose? Morden asked. Full council membership for humanity, with voting rights proportional to our territorial holdings and population. Recognition of human space sovereignty within our established borders, plus room for reasonable expansion. And formal diplomatic relations with all council species. Ambassador Quillith found her voice. And if the council refuses? Morrison's smile was not entirely human anymore. Enhanced facial muscles moved in patterns that suggested predatory satisfaction. Then the council will discover what happens when you try to kill the leaders of a species that evolves through conflict. We've spent the last 72. Sesek moved through the ventilation system above the Colonial Senate chamber with the fluid grace of her species. Her 8 legs found purchase on surfaces that would challenge most beings, and her enhanced senses detected the heat signatures of over 300 humans gathered below. Among them, President Santos sat in the center chair, completely unaware that death stalked above her. The venom spider had eliminated 17 political leaders across the galaxy using this exact method. Drop through ceiling access, deliver paralytic venom, escape while security struggled to understand what had happened. Humans would be no different from the others. She positioned herself directly above the president's chair, carefully cutting through the ventilation grate with acid secreted from her mandibles. The metal dissolved silently, leaving an opening just wide enough for her to drop through. Below, President Santos was addressing concerns about increased military spending. The Colonial Defense Initiative represents our commitment to protecting human interests throughout the galaxy, she said. Her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics, Sesek prepared to strike. Her venom sacs filled to capacity, enough poison to kill every human in the building. She began her descent. Legs extended to cushion her landing on the president's shoulders. She never made it. Something struck her in midair with the force of a meteor. Her exoskeleton, tough enough to resist small arms' fire, cracked along her thorax. She tumbled across the chamber ceiling, all 8 legs scrambling for purchase as she tried to understand what had happened. A figure dropped from the shadows near the chamber's upper gallery. He moved like falling water, silent and fluid, landing in a crouch that barely disturbed the air around him. Enhanced muscles coiled beneath synthetic skin that could stop shrapnel. Silver-flecked eyes tracked Sek's movement with inhuman precision. "Afternoon," Sergeant Major David Park said quietly. "I don't believe you have clearance to be here." Sek's mandibles clicked rapidly in her species' equivalent of laughter. This human thought his soft flesh could match her natural weapons? She had crushed warriors in powered armor. Her acid could dissolve through ship hulls. She launched herself at him. All 8 legs extended like spears, venom dripping from her fangs. Park moved. Not like a human, not even like an enhanced human, but like something that had studied every possible angle of attack and prepared responses for each one. His left hand caught 2 of her legs, his enhanced grip crushing chitin that should have been unbreakable. His right hand drove upward into her thorax with enough force to crack reinforced concrete. Sesek shrieked, a sound that sent several senators diving for cover. She tried to inject venom through her leg tips, but Park twisted away from the strike while maintaining his grip. His free hand moved again, this time targeting the nerve cluster at the base of her head. The venom spider collapsed, her enhanced nervous system temporarily disrupted by precise trauma. She was alive but paralyzed, her 8 legs twitching uselessly. Security, Park spoke into his cum unit. Package secured in the Senate chamber. Requesting xenobiology containment team. President Santos looked up at the figure standing over the alien assassin. Super soldier program? Yes, ma'am. Please continue with your address. We have 4 more packages to collect. 3,000 kilometers away. Admiral Torres worked in her Luna base office, reviewing deployment schedules for the Third Fleet. The lunar facility's environmental systems maintained perfect temperature control, making Krith's approach more challenging than usual. The Ice Stalker had spent the past hour studying the base's layout, learning patrol patterns and security protocols. His thermal camouflage made him effectively invisible to the facility's sensors. The Admiral's office had only one entrance, making escape routes limited. But Krith was confident in his abilities. He phased his body temperature to match the corridor walls and slipped past 2 security guards. His claws, designed to cut through ice harder than diamond, would make quick work of human flesh. The office door slid open as he approached, triggered by motion sensors that couldn't distinguish between authorized personnel and temperature-matched infiltrators. Admiral Torres sat with her back to the door, focused on her display screens. Krith raised his claws and struck. His talons met something harder than titanium. The impact sent shockwaves up his arms, and he staggered backward as Admiral Torres turned in her chair to face him, except it wasn't. Admiral Torres, Corporal Lisa Reynolds, smiled at the confused alien. Her skin held a metallic sheen that spoke of subdermal armor plating. Her muscles had been enhanced to the point where she could throw a grown man across a room without effort. But it was her eyes that held Krith's attention, silver-flecked and utterly lacking in fear. Admiral Torres is safely relocated, Reynolds said conversationally. I volunteered to keep her chair warm. Krith snarled and attacked again, this time targeting what he believed were softer areas. His claws raked across Reynolds' throat, seeking the carotid artery. They left scratches on her skin. Nothing more. Subdermal carbon lattice, Reynolds explained, plus enhanced bone density and reinforced organs. We're pretty hard to kill these days. She stood from the chair, and Krith realized she was taller than most humans. Her frame built for combat in ways that evolution had never intended. The Ice Stalker possessed strength that could crush vehicle armor. His homeworld's gravity was twice that of Earth. He launched himself at Reynolds. With everything he had, she caught him in midair. Her enhanced muscles strained against his assault, but held firm. Slowly, inexorably, she began to squeeze. Krith's exoskeleton, designed to withstand the crushing pressure of his homeworld, began to crack. The thing about humans, Reynolds said as she applied pressure, is that we're really good at learning from our mistakes. First contact with hostile aliens, we make sure it's also last contact. Krith tried to speak, to surrender, but Reynolds had crushed his vocal cords. His struggles grew weaker as his oxygen supply was cut off. When it was over, she spoke into her cum unit. Package 2 secured? Requesting cleanup crew. At Fort Bragg, General Chun moved through the training facility with practiced efficiency. The latest batch of recruits showed promise, but they lacked the edge that came from real combat experience. He made mental notes about additional training protocols as he walked. Morgesh watched from within the walls themselves, his Shadow Wraith abilities allowing him to exist partially in subspace. The general's escort of 4 guards meant nothing to a being who could strike from dimensions they couldn't perceive. The general paused near a training hologram, studying tactical displays. Perfect opportunity, Morgesh began to phase into normal space, his form materializing behind General Chun like a nightmare-given substance. His claws, capable of cutting through any known material, extended toward the human's neck. They met something that shouldn't have been possible. A hand caught Morgesh's wrist, stopping his strike completely. But there was no one there. The general was 3 meters away. The guards were watching the perimeter, and no human technology could interact with a phased being. Interesting trick, a voice said from empty air. Subspace phasing. We've been wondering how to counter that. Sergeant Maria Martinez materialized around the hand holding Morgesh's wrist. Her form solidified from what appeared to be nothingness, her enhanced body revealing itself as she canceled her own phasing ability. Dimensional shift technology, she explained to the stunned Shadow Wraith. Turns out human engineers are pretty creative when they put their minds to it. We can phase 2 now? Morgesh tried to retreat back into subspace, but Martinez maintained her grip on his wrist. Her enhancements allowed her to follow him partway into the dimensional void, keeping physical contact across multiple planes of existence. The difference between us, Martinez said, as she dragged him back into normal space, is that you phase to hide? We phase to hunt. Her free hand moved with surgical precision, targeting nerve clusters that existed in subspace as well as normal reality. Morgesh collapsed, his phasing abilities disrupted by trauma to extradimensional anatomy that he hadn't known could be damaged. General June approached as Martinez secured the alien assassin. Super Soldier program? Yes, sir. Package 3 secured. The others? Reports coming in now. Mr. Williams should be finishing up in London about now. In the intelligence facility outside London, Director Morrison continued his work despite knowing he was being hunted. His telepathic shielding hummed quietly in the background. A technological marvel that had taken humanity decades to develop after first contact with psychic species, Zix circled the facility like a shark, his mental probes searching for weaknesses in the humans' defenses. The Mind Flayer had broken species with telepathic abilities far beyond anything humans should possess. Their mental barriers were primitive compared to true psychic races. He began his assault, sending waves of telepathic energy designed to induce paranoia, fear, and eventually suicidal impulses. The technique had never failed. This time, his mental attack met something unexpected. Not a barrier, but a reflection. His own psychic energy bounced back at him, amplified and refined by technology that seemed to learn from each assault. Inside the facility, Director Morrison smiled grimly. Adaptive Psychic Defense Grid, he said to the empty air. Based on captured Mind Flayer technology from TST,